And we're live. How are you doing?
I'm doing good, thank you.
Awesome. So I found you through Instagram by pressing on the little Dorchester location thing.
Oh, I didn't know that.
And you paint.
Yes.
How did you originally get into painting?
I have painted for a long time, but I think I started being really getting into it at school. So I had a really great art teacher and she was very encouraging, and I think it just really helped to have someone who just liked what I was doing, because I think sometimes if you're just doing something by yourself, you don't necessarily know if it's really great. But yeah, it was just really fun, and it was nice to go and escape into the art block a lot of the time.
Totally, 100%. When you have someone above you, like you said, that sort of encourages and motivates you, if you don't have that, you can end up feeling like, why am I even doing this? It loses its power.
Yeah.
But I suppose through Instagram as well, you're able to find that appreciation of your art, I suppose, because you're getting the likes and the comments that are great.
I think the funny thing about that is that I did have to wait until I was more confident in what I was doing until I could actually share it with other people. Like when I was at school or a few years ago, when I didn't have an art, especially for my Instagram, it was a little bit strange to show it to other people. I think it does help you get a bit more confident though, because you do often get some quite strange random people that find it, and it's just a little confidence boost when someone's like, oh, this is really cool.
Oh, of course. So you mean that the strange people are the good ones?
Possibly.
Yeah, that's usually the case with the art world, because it's an expression of who you are inside. Like, personally, my favourite posts of yours are I think it's a zebra that has a zebra head.
Okay, yeah, thank you.
Yeah. Do you work with symbolism at all? Because there's like a gash on the side here, there's like a sort of wallpapery pattern behind.
Yeah, well, that one was quite a while ago, so that one was whilst I was doing my A-levels, and I think it was probably one of my favourite ones whilst I was doing my A-levels, so I put it at the beginning so I could have a piece that I felt quite good about, that I could share with everyone. But I think at the time I was kind of thinking about the injuries that we cause to the planet and how it's all kind of related to us as humans and how we treat ourselves. I mean, I haven't thought about that concept in quite a long time, so it's strange to talk about it.
Wow.
But
no, I totally agree with you, that because animals, they're the same as us. You cut them, they bleed, they hurt. And to be able to express that through the zebra head, it almost personifies. And because when you see a gash like that on an animal, for most people, they don't see it as painful as seeing a gash like that on a human. And you've almost blended the two in a way.
Yeah. So I think there's a lot of people who, when you think about hurting animals, I guess when you're eating meat, for example, it's quite everyday run of the mill, but thinking about hurting animals in a more broad sense, like on a global scale, like how we use dairy farming and just the hurt that we cause to the environment and that kind of thing. Obviously it's a very symbolic representation of that, but that's the sort of thing that was going through my head when I was making it.
Fabulous, yeah. Look, sorry, would you mind moving the mic just a little closer to you? That's really great, yeah, thank you.
Okay.
I love that. Art is usually... I listened on a podcast recently with... do you know Joe Rogan?
No, I don't.
Oh, he used to be a wrestling commentator, and now he does podcasts. So he's sort of got the voice for it. And he did a podcast with a painter called David Cho, I think his name is. And and on that podcast, David talks about how suffering can really benefit and help an artist in a way to come out with very original pieces of work, and to be happy and calm and content in life can sort of hinder that. Do you agree with that?
Yeah, I can see where he's coming from. I think I know different people have different motivations for doing things, but I don't necessarily think that you have to be suffering to make good art. I think it does help if you're feeling possibly frustrated or like in a situation that you have to think your way around, or if you're just inspired by something. It doesn't necessarily have to be bad or something hurtful. Like more recently, it's been quite nice because I've been quite inspired by things that I find quite positive, like body positivity. I know that's quite a cliche at the moment, but I mean, it is in a sense similar, because you're still sort of thinking your way around this concept of like how you relate to your body or how other people are relating to their own bodies. So it's not just like, oh, I'm happy with how I am and everything and I want to express that. It is kind of working your way around it in your mind and expressing that in some way.
Right. So that's what all the poems are about?
Yeah, kind of. I mean, I think it's also just in the last few months or the last year, I guess. God, it's gone on for a while. I think I've just kind of wanted to paint stuff that people can look at and say like, oh, that's funny, or you know, just something that will bring someone joy.
Right.
So, yeah.
Rather than going into spreading a message about the environment, it's just having a bit of fun.
Yes. Yeah. Nice. I mean, I think it would probably be more helpful to, well, I don't know. I mean, it's always helpful, even just in a tiny way, just to have something that just is going to be like, that's nice, make you laugh or something. But
totally, yeah, you can't just be all serious. So end up going down a Van Gogh sort of route, and
it's good to have some balance, maybe.
Totally, yeah.
I was just gonna say I sold that painting to my best friend, and she's now got up in her new house. So
amazing!
I'm very happy about that. I'm hoping that she laughs when she sees it.
Bring some joy in her every single day of life.
Yeah,
that's beautiful. Wow, I never thought that. Well, I've got a little painting there that I did for my mate Alex that I aimed to bring a bit of joy with. I
did notice that as I came in. It's very nice.
Thank you. And the ability to just spread joy with some paint. It's obviously doesn't come from the paint. It comes from our mind, and our intention. With the paintings. Yeah,
obviously because Christmas is coming up. I was thinking a lot about what are good gifts, and I realised that all of my favourite things that I've been given are all things that people have created, and they've kind of had some intention, and like just spending time on something and, you know, giving your time basically to someone else, I think is really nice.
Yeah, 100%. Yes. Without the time put into it, it could be a bit of a thoughtless gift. It's just money at the end of the day.
Still appreciate that. If anyone's going to give me chocolates, I'm not going to complain.
True that, of course. That's a quality gift. You cannot beat. I kind of want to go a bit more into the symbolism of that zebra painting, or the pig painting as well. Did they both have the same meaning behind?
Yeah, that was also at the same time, again, during my A-levels, and I don't know if you did A-level art or if you know about it, but...
I didn't actually know.
Okay, well, it is basically you get given a concept or like a word, and you have to come up with your own ways to respond to the title that you're given. I can't actually remember what it was for that one. It'll be something like connectedness. I can't quite remember.
Okay.
But you kind of brainstorm around that idea, and then you look at other artists and get inspiration from whatever you want to get inspiration from, but you take lots of different sources, and a lot of it is kind of thinking about all of those things that are being input, and then you take it along and you develop it, and you come up with your own response and your own ideas in relation to whatever that word or that title was. And I think that, it was something like connectedness was the one that we were given. Mm-hmm. And I think I was thinking about it on like a more global level, and our connectedness and like our relation to the world and like nature. At the time, I was also doing an extended project or an essay, I can't quite remember, on the impact of dairy farming on the environment, and like how it's good and how it's bad, and like whether it's better to have organically farmed meat and all of those kinds of things, and like exploring the impact of that. And so I think a lot of that kind of fed into what I was doing in art as well. Right. That the pig painting was very heavily influenced by this amazing artist that I found at the time, and she had some really colourful, beautiful paintings which I found really inspiring visually. But she also had this kind of visual thing where she would have people and their skin was kind of rolling off. It sounds kind of disgusting, but it looked quite interesting. So I was taking some inspiration from that.
Weirdly enough, I think I might have just seen a painting of hers very recently, like within the last week.
Ah, that's cool.
Did one of your paintings have skin flaying off like that? And like, is it in like a spirally sort of pattern?
Yeah, so there's this pig woman that I've painted, and her torso, I think it is. I haven't seen it in a while, but yeah, her torso is kind of, well, it's either sort of cut up or sort of the skin's kind of rolling around. Yeah, I found it quite an interesting image.
Yes, it is. It's very grotesque.
Yes, it's disgusting.
It is, yeah. And it's what we're doing every single day, really. All these animals. So you're, in a way, a messenger. Or messenger? Not sure what the word is. A sort of, a spreader of the word of how hideous and grotesque it really is.
Yeah. Yeah, I think I used to be quite drawn to all that kind of slightly darker stuff.
Right.
I would say I have moved away from that a bit, just because, I don't know, I think that it's also nice to focus on the more positive things. But
totally, yeah.
I think it's still definitely something that's still really relevant and still worth thinking about. So maybe I'll be moving towards it again.
Oh, nice. I would look forward to seeing that.
Yeah.
Not that I don't enjoy the bomb paintings. There's a great also. It's great because the Scream. But who do you know who painted that? I cannot quite remember. Munch. Okay.
I think, I really hope I'm not wrong. I always doubt myself. If I'm going to be recorded saying this, then I should not doubt myself.
Well, our listeners can Google it. I'm sure it'll be fine.
If it's not Munch, I'm really sorry.
God, no, you just made me lose 50 subscribers. He painted that because of the abattoir that was below the bridge, and when he'd walk across it, he'd just want to scream. And so that idea of connecting with nature and animals, I think, goes really deep in artists.
Wow, yeah, I didn't know that was the motivation behind the Scream, but I find that quite interesting because I think pieces of art that are really just an expression of like a quite basic impulsive emotion, I find them really powerful and interesting. So yeah, I guess that's why that's such an amazing piece of art. I really like it, even if it is quite disturbing.
It is very disturbing, and it's beautiful. I think I have a pair of socks with the Scream on, actually.
Oh, a bit jealous. That's nice.
That impulsivity you were talking about, that goes very deep in, because I'm an actor.
Oh, so, okay.
Yeah, and it goes very deep into acting as well. We've just done a whole semester on impulsivity. Have you heard of Meisner, Sanford Meisner?
No.
Well, he's this practitioner where it goes so deep into impulse that you don't think about what you're doing. And our teachers ended up throwing chairs at students, or students have thrown chairs at each other. They've ended up snogging in front of a classroom of people, 2 students. And when you're watching it, it hits you like a missile. As my teacher says, a missile of emotion. And the art that you created with the pig and the zebra had that same missile effect.
Wow, okay.
Definitely.
Well, I'm glad it had some strong impact on you. That's really interesting.
Yeah. You were saying as well about how those two pieces of art came about from education establishments. Like,
Yes.
so that stimulus that was given to you, without that you wouldn't have created such art. Do you think that's sort of necessary in schools to, well, because it's often said that schools prevent creativity, but without the school system, that art wouldn't have been created, I suppose.
Yeah, I see what you're saying. I think that's a really interesting question because the way I think about it, well, the way I've recently started thinking about it, is that there could be sort of two motivations for art, and well, probably there are more. There are two that I think about, and they can work together, or you can have like more heavy influence from one. But I think about it as art being sort of a basic, impulsive, emotional response to something, or a more sort of educational, thought-out response to something. And the way that it's expressed, yeah, it can have sort of, well, I think most art probably has influence from both things. And sort of how it's created might not necessarily, it might not necessarily come through. So, for example, if it's created from a sort of emotional aspect, you might have a kind of intellectual response to it, or vice versa. But I think definitely that it's important to think about what you're creating and like have specific motivations for making it. I mean, if you didn't have any thoughts in your head, you wouldn't need to express them. So
Yeah,
definitely I think it's important.
Totally, yeah.
But also thinking about art and sort of the greater context of why we even have art. I think a lot of it is to make people think about certain social problems, or I don't know, anything that's important to you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Even if it's how much you admire like a lemon or a bum.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
I would say, like I was saying, that it's kind of I'm moving more towards doing things just because it makes me happy. So
Right.
The lemons I think are really pretty, and to be honest, it's just because they're this beautiful colour, and I think, well, that's a really lovely colour, so I just want to paint that. It's not really anything more complicated than that.
Yeah, there's no symbolism behind the sourness of the lemon reflects how, I don't know, the coronavirus has impacted our society. It's nothing as...
Well, actually, it's funny that you say that, because there is this one painting that I did, well, I started it a few months ago, and it's like I said, it's kind of a combination, because I did want to paint the lemons because they're just so pretty, but it was also, this sort of phrase, when life gives you lemons.
Yes.
That was kind of in my head as well when I was making this painting. It's this one where there's the girl like playing with some lemons on a table. I don't know if you've seen it, but
I don't think I have actually.
Well, it's on the Instagram.
Okay, I will find that.
Yeah. I mean, it's not really a very deep, really intellectual, complicated thing, but I think it's okay to kind of have several reasons for painting things. It's like when you read a book and you're like, oh, what's the author trying to do here? And, it could be several things, and it could be all of them or none of them.
Yeah, totally. So there was a slight element of symbolism even in there. Is there any element of... One thing I've noticed with the bums that you paint is they're like almost perfect. They're like very muscular. They're kind of like, they remind me of sort of Michelangelo's sort of statues.
Yeah, yeah.
Is there symbolism in bums at all?
Oh, wow. That's an interesting question. Not as far as I know. I mean, it was genuinely just, oh, bums are really funny, let's paint loads of those.
That's brilliant.
Maybe I should do a bit of research.
In the symbolism of bums.
Yeah. Can further inform my work.
Oh, wow. So it wasn't ever planned out, it just because they're fun. They're funny things.
Well, I think it's because I was painting lots of people, and well, I really enjoy painting people. I find it very satisfying. They're probably my favourite subject, but I think it was just coincidence that I happened to draw a few bums, and then I kind of looked at them and I thought, oh, that's kind of the nicest part of it, so I'll just draw some more of those.
Bro. Do you find that depending on different parts of the world, well, obviously in different parts of the world, art changes. So in Japan, they use very bold colours, and in Australia, they've got the Aboriginal dot paintings. Have you ever been inspired by different countries' styles rather than a specific artist?
Oh yeah, definitely. I have been to a few different countries and was able to like do some paintings in some different weird places. So that's yeah. I did some murals on a wall of a hostel in Thailand, and I don't know if it was deliberate, but I think it was probably just all the sort of when you go into temples and they have loads of beautiful, really colourful, interesting scenes on the walls. So I think that kind of did filter in a little bit when I was there. And also not necessarily the art in different places, but the culture, how people are, I guess their responses to art. I think that can be quite influential too.
All right.
In a weird way.
Sort of the way that a stand-up comedian will alter his act depending on how much laughter he's getting, you'll alter your painting depending on your reception.
Yeah, possibly. I mean, I guess actually making a painting, you can't judge how people are going to react to it, but just the idea that different people that I've met have kind of had different reactions to what I've painted and kind of been impressed or like a bit like, oh, I don't really like this part, or, sort of had different thoughts about different aspects that I wasn't quite expecting, because I guess it's just, having a variety of opinions is quite interesting.
Yeah, 100%. Do you ever receive feedback and then in your head go, no, screw you, I'm going to do it my way?
Yeah, definitely. I think it's hard not to.
Yeah, as an artist, it's all about your self-expression.
Yeah. I mean, it's definitely still helpful to have feedback, because even though I make my art from what I want to do, obviously, but I do want other people to enjoy it, and like I do want it to, for example, if I'm painting a body, I do want to be able to, get the autonomy correct, for example.
Yeah.
So, things like still going to like life drawing classes is really helpful, and my dad comments on my art quite a lot, saying like, oh, your shoulder's not quite right. And sometimes I will just be like, oh, nah, never mind, I like it this way. But
with the slight defect in the shoulder, you prefer it if it's not perfect?
I think sometimes, I mean, if you do want something to be a perfect representation of life, then you could just take a photo, or I mean, obviously there's nothing wrong with realism. I think it's incredibly impressive.
Yes.
But I personally prefer to maybe distort things a little bit. For example, with colour, I think that's a really good one to kind of be able to express the mood. So if you're doing skin tones, you can make them slightly more green or slightly more, morbid colours.
Yes.
If you want them to be a bit sort of, I don't know, a bit edgy.
Yeah.
Or like warmer colours, and then obviously that corresponds in a really basic way to kind of happier emotions.
Of course, yeah. When we're happier, the blood rises to the surface, and we express that. And with green and or blue, those sort of colours definitely represent a sort of dead body.
Lovely stuff.
Yeah, that's what you want in art.
Yeah.
Well, that runs through what you mentioned earlier, is that for your pig and zebra paintings, you had to do some research on specific artists.
Yeah.
Were those given to you?
No, you had quite a lot of freedom, so you could just kind of go out and find someone that you really liked, someone that you related to, either just on the internet, or if you happen to go to an art gallery and see something nice, you could sort of do a bit of research about the artist, about what processes they used, about what motivates them, what's important that they express in their work.
Right.
And then you kind of have to analyse their work as well.
So it's not just about their techniques?
No. Actually, you look at their techniques, but I think that's probably about a quarter of the ideas that you take from them is how they do things, and the rest of it is, the form, the what they're painting, and like maybe their upbringing or any kind of how they learned and their influences, or like which artists they studied. So it's like a big chain of artist to artist to artist.
Wow. Of course, yeah, they weren't inspired by themselves. They had to find someone to go off of.
Yeah, I imagine so.
So when you're researching these artists, you really go deep into their emotions. You discover their psychology and what happened in their lives. So you sort of study their biography in a way.
Yeah, it is really helpful if you can find a biography for an artist, and then it kind of gives you a bit more of an idea about them, and reading interviews that they've done and that kind of thing. It's very helpful. But obviously I think when you are researching them, it can be probably quite easy to trying to think of the word, to kind of put your own interpretation, that's the word.
Yeah.
But I don't know why I lost that word. But you can sort of interpret it probably in your own way, and I guess you won't really know completely if you've understood them properly, but it can give you your inspiration anyway.
Yeah, 100%. Through all of art, really, like for especially Joaquin Phoenix. Do you know him?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, the Joker, right?
Yes, the Joker, the newest. For whenever he receives a script, even at a really young age, because he's a total artist when he's acting, he would look at a script and just take his interpretation. He wouldn't care about the director or the writer. He goes, that's me. And they once gave him a jacket with all these pins on, and he goes, no, my character wouldn't wear that. And luckily the director was like, all right, we'll have a chat about this. And it created a legend.
Oh wow, that's amazing. Yeah, I didn't know that about him, but he was pretty phenomenal in the Joker. That's really all I know him from, but it was very impressive.
It was phenomenal performance. He changed his physicality and his psyche. In like Heath Ledger, when he was going into creating the Joker, he locked himself in a hotel room for, I think it was 6 weeks. Just read the comics and really studied the previous character of the Joker. Whereas Joaquin, because it was more about the psychology, he went and researched this film called The Man Who Laughs, and he really went more into the fact that the Joker is a mentally ill man. He isn't just joking and playing.
Yeah. I think that's why that film is so incredible, as you can, I mean, maybe not necessarily relate on completely to it, but like you kind of see everything from his point of view, and it's really incredible to get this different angle of him than just, oh, he's a villain.
100%. I felt like I could completely relate with him.
Yeah. I don't want to say that, like, no. Yeah, I relate to this serial killer, but
to have the FBI knocking on the door. Yeah. It's not a situation anyone wants. But do you sort of relate? You have to. I think that's why he's so famous. He's the masses. They love him. Have you seen Fight Club?
I actually haven't. I have to admit, I haven't seen Fight Club. I'll probably get a lot of hate for this.
No, that's my favourite film. That's why. And there's a character in that called Tyler Durden, and he's kind of similar to the Joker's attitude at the end of the film, where it's all about screw it, watch the world burn. And in modern day society, with everyone in office blocks and going to work, you get to work, you commute home, which is like a really common system in cities. I feel like this need to just break free is really prominent in those films, and that's why so much of society can connect. And even though he is a madman that wants to hurt, when you're creating your art, do you ever look into that sort of anarchistic side of the world?
That is not something that I've actually ever thought about. I think the closest that I would say that I relate to anarchy is probably just the whole nudism thing. Like, I guess that's not something that people go around just, oh, you know, I'll be naked today. I guess it's not the same as anarchy, but it's just something that's not it's not just an everyday occurrence, I guess.
I think that totally is anarchy, because it's illegal to be nude. Like,
oh, that's true.
Our bodies are illegal to be shown in public. It's just as grotesque for some reason as an abattoir.
Yeah, okay. Well, yeah, in that sense then definitely. I mean, I guess because I obviously see quite a lot of naked people because I'm painting them all the time.
Yeah.
It doesn't seem like something, I don't really think of it as something that's sort of illegal or wrong or bad anymore.
Of course.
But I don't know, yeah, I guess sometimes when people ask me if they've just met me and they say, oh, what do you do? And I say, oh, I paint bums. And I mean, some people laugh and some people are like, what? But that's quite funny. It's always interesting to tell people that.
Yeah, it's not just a bum. I feel like if you had said that 2,000 years, or whenever Michelangelo's statues are created, people would probably be like, yes, I respect that, yeah. It's a natural part of our body. We're proud of it.
Yeah. Well, I think we should be. I think that's like one of the best reasons for painting like nude people, for me, is that I've kind of noticed and also done some research about it, and apparently to be a life model, or even to just be painting nude people, and I guess to kind of develop some appreciation for like different varieties of human bodies, it really gives people a greater sense of confidence about their own bodies and sort of less judgment towards other people's, which I think is really amazing. But it's also just fun.
Yeah, of course. It is amazing. It really is. Like, not just for it doesn't just build confidence for the models that you're painting, but for the people that see it, that think, God, I've got a bum like that. I am art in a way.
Yeah.
I am just as beautiful.
I remember seeing something the other day, or someone said it, I don't know where it's from, but this idea that we're all completely different, but at the same time we're all exactly the same. We all have our bodies and we're all a little bit unique, so we all might have something that we're a bit sort of embarrassed about or ashamed about, but we really shouldn't, because well, everything's natural, isn't it? And it's kind of crazy the way that we shame people's bodies for whatever reason. I mean, it doesn't even have to be like anything completely abnormal. It's just, yeah, to kind of get away from this idea of, you know, bodies have to be perfect or they have to be this way or that way. I mean, it's not even the same between cultures. I don't know why we have this idea of a perfect body to begin with.
It's totally ridiculous. I don't know when it actually started either. I think it was in the last 200 years or so that nudity became hideous and grotesque, and it has to be like all these girls. Like, it's a common thing that's talked about nowadays, that all these girls, they look on social media and it's horrific that they think that they have to modify their body with surgery, getting put under a blade or getting a lip filler,
Yeah.
to be perfect.
I mean, I think it's also important to note probably that it's not just girls who feel like that, but it's probably women who talk about it more. But it's also quite interesting. Sometimes I have conversations with guys and they say like, oh, you know, I feel that pressure too. It's just in a different way. And I mean, yeah, when you talk about it, or when people are kind of complaining about that side of it in the media, a lot of the time they're complaining about how there's this perfect body image for a woman. But of course it's the same for men as well. Like, just for anybody who struggles with their body, I mean, it's just, yeah. I hope that if anyone listening doesn't like their body, maybe they should go paint some nude people or paint themselves in the mirror. That could be quite nice.
Have you ever tried doing that?
I actually haven't. Maybe I will now.
Well, because I've heard self-portraits are way more difficult than portraits of other people.
I do remember, yeah, I've done some self-portraits of my face when I was into faces, but yeah, it's quite strange because you don't really know what you look like to other people.
Yeah.
And obviously every time you look in the mirror, you see like the reverse, and there's that weird thing where your face is slightly lopsided or slightly, you know, bigger eye on one side, and then obviously you have this idea that your face is kind of backwards, and then if you have a photo and you're painting the photo, or if you're looking in the mirror, it's going to be slightly different. It's very weird.
Totally, yeah, it's disfigured completely. Plus, then there's the 3D element of it as well, where because when you're looking in a mirror, you can only ever see really, like, unless you like proper like adjust around, but then you're still not seeing a full 3D image that like the two eyes bring us. Yeah.
I have this very strange realization. I don't know if you've ever sort of seen a video of yourself sort of from, not quite from behind, but sort of from an angle where they're looking sort of at your ear or something.
Yeah.
But if you see that, yeah, it's so strange, isn't it? And you think, gosh, that's what the back of my neck looks like. That's really not what I expected.
I suppose so, yeah, it's something so normal, but I hadn't even registered that because I had a shot recently where I was filmed from the side and there was something that I clocked that was weird. It must have been all these little features that I didn't quite like.
Yeah, you just can't see the back of your neck. I know it's sort of random point to focus on, but you see it on other people all the time. You're constantly like looking at this strange angle of the back of their neck, and yeah, it's weird that you can't see yourself. I think if people could, maybe we'd all be a bit happier with how we looked, possibly.
Yeah, totally. I agree with you, because our minds aren't cameras. When we look in the mirror, we, not just because of the reverse thing, but we mentally change how we think we look depending on what people have told us. Like,
really?
I think so. Like body dysmorphia kind of thing.
Oh,
but
right,
that's
yeah.
just like subtle in every person. I'd imagine it would be so.
Yeah, that would make sense. Yeah.
Like you were saying about the masculinity thing with guys, where guys just have the exact same pressure as women to be possibly more muscular.
Yeah.
I've had that exact same thing where I'll look in the mirror and I'll think that I look quite muscular one day, and then 2 days after I think, Jesus fuck, I'm skinny as a rake. And
yeah,
nothing has changed physically. It's all up here.
Yeah.
Psychological.
Yeah. I think that's kind of crazy as well. The fact that, I mean, your body can change quite quickly from day to day, like, I don't know, bloating or whatever, or
that's true.
if your eyes are puffy or something. But yeah, definitely how you're feeling really impacts on how you look at yourself. And I guess that's why you have a different idea of what you look like than the reality a lot of the time.
100%, yeah. Do you work with music when you're painting?
Actually not so often. I often listen to like podcasts or the radio, because it's nice to think about other things. I do kind of drift in and out of them though, because it's kind of weird. You have to focus on what you're painting, and there's sort of stretches of time when you're just filling in blanks kind of thing, you know, just putting the colour in.
Right.
But it's nice to have something else to think about. And I don't know, sometimes it kind of influences what you're doing a little bit. Sometimes it's something unrelated and it's just kind of helps you stay focused a bit.
That's nice. So it's only when you're really feeling something and when you're doing the really precise movements, or you're focusing on that precise movement, you can't really hear the podcast.
Yeah, exactly. It's quite frustrating sometimes because I realise that I've zoned out of the podcast and I've like zoned into the painting. I mean, that's fine because I should probably just focus on painting.
Yeah, of course. Do you ever find that you get too distracted by the podcast and you have to turn it off because you can't do the painting right?
Not very often. I think if I do get into the podcast, I will just sort of pause and like hover with my paintbrush and just think, oh, well, that's really interesting. But I think most of the time I probably find the painting easier to focus on than the podcast because it's something that I'm sort of physically concentrating on as well as mentally. So it's like the two aspects that are pulling me towards it rather than just having it on in the background kind of thing.
Right. So it's just so you don't get bored, really. In long spaces of just silence, painting away.
Yeah. And also sometimes I just feel like it's useful to multitask.
Right. Yeah. Do you find that your paintings are a bit better when you're listening to podcasts and you're multitasking?
I'm not sure if it makes them better, but it definitely means that I can kind of go for a bit longer. I mean, I'm not going to get bored as easily or sort of find it so monotonous.
Yeah, that makes sense. If you've got a sort of bored perspective when you're painting, I suppose you wouldn't be as passionate.
Yeah, exactly.
So in a way, by distracting your mind with these different things, you're keeping it whirring, keeping it going.
Yeah.
That's fabulous. Have you ever tried music whilst painting?
Yeah, of course. I mean, I do listen to music sometimes painting. I guess it's just more recently I have been listening to podcasts, but
Okay.
I think it's the same thing really. You just have something there and yeah, you can sing along, but then sometimes you get distracted and then you're just singing, you're not painting.
Yeah. You don't want to be dancing whilst you're painting, I suppose.
No, I have tried that. It doesn't work so well.
Oh, you've actually tried it?
Well, I mean, yeah, if you...
apologies.
Oh,
I did this in the last podcast as well.
Just kick the table.
Cool.
Yeah. I think sometimes when you're listening to music and you just, oh yeah, I'll have a little dance. But then, yeah, obviously you kind of have to keep your hands not still, but you have to be quite controlled with your hands whilst painting. So it's not really...
Of course, yeah. That would be an art in itself to be able to just keep the hand stable whilst having a boogie. Like,
yeah.
Not ideal.
Quite expressive and abstract otherwise.
It would be very abstract. That you have a painting as well where there's like a little boy. Is his name Joe? Where he's holding his hand out to the side and then he's holding it forwards, and in both there's a heart.
Yeah, that was also during my A-levels. Yeah, I found that really fun to paint. I think that was at the point when I was discovering how fun it was to paint people.
Okay.
And it's probably like the first time that I did a really... It's like 1.5 meters by 1.5 meters big, and yeah, I really enjoyed doing something on kind of a larger scale.
That's huge. I didn't expect it to be that big.
Yeah, I think it's weird. It's almost easier to do bigger paintings, but it's also more impressive. But then you have nowhere to store them, so yeah. Of
course. Wow. So with the zebra and the pig, you never used a human model to base the bodies off of?
I can't remember. I probably had some kind of reference image that I found on the internet. So that's always funny because, yeah, my search history is probably not...
Nude bodies.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
I mean, luckily there are lots of websites that are like specifically like meant as reference image like archives, so that's very useful. Yeah.
You don't look as bad. No, not at all. I wouldn't have imagined ever, like, whenever I've thought of life painting, like painting a body, I wouldn't have ever imagined going on to the internet. I would have always imagined it to be a real life model.
Yes, it should be really, but I think it's not always that convenient. Yeah, I don't really have a nude model just lying around. There's this human like keeping the. Oh no, sorry.
Oh my god, it's turned a bit cannibalistic. Oh man.
I guess that's the great thing about portraits, though, is that you don't have to. I mean, it's still kind of hard to convince people to, like, let them paint your face. No, paint their face. Sorry.
Okay.
But yeah, obviously, it's a lot harder being like, oh, just come along and sit here for 3 hours in the exact same position.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I suppose not everyone's so willing to do that.
No.
And you used a real life boy in Joe.
Yeah, I did.
Was that a classmate or?
Yeah, he was in my art class.
Do you know what the word was for that? Were you given a word?
That's a good question. I cannot remember. I mean, I have my old sketchbook. If I went through it, I'd be able to find it.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, I honestly, I don't remember too much about that one. I think I wasn't, I think it was earlier and I wasn't sort of, it was more still kind of exploring things, and maybe exploring the technique rather than, I was more interested in the technique rather than the concept at that point. Mm-hmm. But I do remember the artist that really inspired me, because there's the sort of it's like a double exposure kind of thing, isn't it, with the painting. And there's this artist called, I don't know how you pronounce it, so it's probably not right. It's like David Argento or something.
I've never heard of him.
Yeah, no. He's pretty cool. Just have a look.
Okay, I will do. Well, how do you spell that?
I'll write it down for you.
That is easier, yes, please.
Yeah, instead of embarrass myself. Yeah.
David Argento.
Yeah, so he's pretty cool. He does kind of, a lot of them are kind of quite pale blue, purpley skin tones, and like double exposure. He has some really cool hands. Kind of, I guess it's kind of like movement. Yeah, I'm waving my hands around, but
yeah, I think I know what you mean. So that moment where there's one shot here and then a second shot where it's here.
Yeah, but it's quite interesting. Yeah, it's very beautiful, and his art is just quite unique, I think, to look at.
Of course, I think I heard do you know David Lynch?
Yes.
Oh, fab. Have you seen any of his films?
What are his films?
Eraserhead, Blue Velvet.
Oh, Blue Velvet. That's
Heart.
The one with the guy that was in Twin Peaks.
Yes.
Right? Yeah.
Yes. Have you seen Twin Peaks?
I love Twin Peaks. It's so weird.
David Lynch directed that also.
Oh, okay. There we go. That's where I know his name.
I love David Lynch. That's what reminded me of him. The uniqueness.
Yeah.
He has.
Yeah, he's great. I mean, when you said David Lynch, I was like, yes, I know that name, but it's going to take a little prompt.
Of course, yeah.
Yeah.
So many artists out there nowadays. And he actually said something recently that, because I've been wanting to create my own stuff I've been wanting to write my own film and direct it, and I've had moments where I start to make it and then I'll go, oh, it's been done before. I love the idea, but I'm going to have to change it. I need to make it different. I need to make it original and weird. And he recently said on this talk show, don't do something just to make it different. And I love that, personally.
Yeah, I think there's definitely something in that. I mean, if you're kind of going out and purposefully being like, I just want this to be weird and I want people to be freaked out, it's kind of different than sort of having the motivation of like making something because you have this idea of something that you want to express. It's kind of like appeasing your audience before you express what you want to express, and like making that the more important part.
And that would never work. It's like with this Meisner practitioner, if in the moment you think, oh, this will be really impactful, the moment's passed, the impulse is gone, and your audience are seeing someone thinking. And I suppose with painting, you have a moment to reflect on it. Do you ever find that with painting, where you're sort of painting and you've got the impulse, the instinct in that moment, but then if it passes, it's gone, sort of thing?
Yeah, I think I know what you're getting at. I think it's kind of weird. Sometimes I start painting something, and if I work on it over like a longer period of time, it will change, and like I'll even have to like go over bits and like change the colours and change everything that's going on just because I'm feeling something slightly different.
Right.
Which is why quite a lot of the time, if I just have an idea and I just want to get it out, I will just do it, and like I'll spend like 3 or 4 hours just painting something sort of, something a bit smaller. And then if I sort of finish after 4 hours and I think, oh, I'll just work on it later, I never do, because if I come back to it, then I'll just want to basically paint over the whole thing and it would just be something completely different. So yeah, a lot of the time it's just like going and doing a painting in one go, and then otherwise, yeah, it does change, doesn't it? I mean, even across a period of 4 hours, what you're thinking and what you're feeling does change.
Yeah,
anyway.
Of course. Do you think, wow, I'd never thought of that with painting, that you could lose it like that, the passion that you have for the project. You said that you start with a little painting, and is that to quickly sketch out your idea before it's gone?
I think it's just, yeah, I mean, I think if I do the little painting, I don't often turn it into a bigger painting. It's sort of one or the other. I think the bigger paintings are actually typically the ideas that have something more solid and maybe something that's more inspired intellectually rather than emotionally, if that makes sense. Like something that I've put more thought into. So I guess if I've spent more time thinking about it, it's been in my head for longer, I know it's not just going to disappear in like 5 minutes. Whereas there's also like the paintings where I kind of wake up, or just before I'm about to go to sleep, I think of this image and I'm like, oh, that would be really cool for a painting. And then I wish that I could do it on a big scale, but I know that I'll probably not want to, just because it's something I just want to get out and like put on the paper or, yeah, paint.
Right, yeah.
If that makes sense.
Yeah, no, that makes total sense. Wow, to be able to just get it out in that moment. But I suppose, yeah, like you were saying, once it's painted on the small thing, you've already made the painting. It would be like, you might as well at that point get a scanner and enlarge it if you want to have a big scale of it, because art in a way can't fully be recreated. If you went to do a big scale, like the 4 hour, even in a 4 hour time gap, it would be totally different. So going for a big scale from that one thing.
Yeah, I think that's great though, because obviously you don't want to just be painting the same thing again. And for example, with the bigger paintings, I do sometimes do quite often do smaller things like sketches or anything like that beforehand. But what you end up with is always something of its own. It's not really, I mean, it's like putting down the things that you're being influenced by and your pre-thoughts, and then coming to the bigger painting and just making something and then kind of changing it and going with whatever comes out. It's sometimes quite surprising what actually appears on the canvas.
I can imagine. I very much so got that feeling. I don't know if you planned the full thing out, but with the latest one, with the naked men that are diving.
Oh, that was, yeah, completely. Yeah, I had no idea it was going to look like that, but I'm quite happy with it.
I loved it. I got the feeling that it started in one area of the painting and you did one thing and then you drifted somewhere else and another world was created and then another world was created, and it was all in one image.
Yeah, that's the thing. Like that painting, I didn't do it in one go. It took like probably a month and a half of like not like
oh, not consistently.
not,
okay.
No, it was like a day here and then a day there, like quite far apart. So I had different ideas, different colours in my head, like as I was doing each part. And I'm quite happy with how it came out. I was just really surprised. I wasn't really sure it would happen like that. Especially like I was using this cool black and white photo that I found of a load of guys jumping into a pool from, I don't know, the oldie times.
The vintage times of bums.
Exactly. So it was nice, like, I guess having it black and white, I was like, oh, I can just do all of my own colours and it'll be my painting rather than just this black and white image. But yeah, it just changed every time I went back to it, which is nice.
Yeah, it is. I suppose if you'd painted that within a week, it would look completely different.
Yeah, I think it wouldn't be anything really as special. But I guess you just have to have a combination of these things, the things that you spend time on and the things that just come out.
Totally. Were you sort of making other paintings at the same time as doing this, the diving men?
Yeah, I do get quite easily distracted. If I get a bit bored on something, I'll just think, oh, well, you can't really work on something if you're not feeling like it, which is quite inconvenient sometimes.
Totally, yeah. I can understand that as an actor.
Yeah.
If you're not feeling the scene and you go on, you have to cry. But if you're in a really great mood, it's like, come on, give me something to cry about.
Yeah.
That thing about going from one painting, like doing one big project and then doing little projects that kind of relate to the big project is a thing that I think it was Darwin used.
Oh, did he?
Yeah.
I'm in great company then.
You are, yeah. You're working, I suppose it's art in a way, what Darwin was doing.
Yeah, I guess everything is, in a way.
Yeah, someone actually said that 2 podcasts ago, that every single thing that humans created is art, or has an element of art.
I would agree with that. I mean, it's not all science, isn't it? Like, even scientists, they have to... I guess, like, artists are scientists and scientists are artists, no? We got to use our interesting materials and we got to go with our process.
Totally.
I mean,
yeah, 100%. That was Alan, by the way. I realised I called him someone and felt like you.
Sorry, Alan.
He was a stamp sorter.
But yeah, I heard a bit of that one.
Oh, really? Yeah. Oh, nice. Yeah, totally. You're using these materials to create art. I'm using the work of psychologists, which are scientists of a different sort.
Yeah.
To enhance my art as an actor.
Yeah, it all rolls together, doesn't it? And like, obviously we can't. Well, like I was saying before, with the being informed by like the research about the dairy industry and all of that. That's obviously done by people doing scientific research. So yeah,
that's true.
All feeds together.
It does. We all live on one little planet.
Yep.
Rotating around this huge ball of gas. Have you ever used sort of science apart from the research on milk, so sort of astrology, that sort of thing, to influence your art?
What a good question. I guess the most scientific thing that comes to the top of my head would be like anatomy.
Of course.
Yeah. So at one point I did kind of look just at sort of bone structures and did lots of drawings of like animal skeletons and that kind of thing. Trying to think of sort of other sciencey things that have helped me, but it's weird because I don't sort of deliberately think about science very often. So
of course, yeah. Well, we have a minute left.
Oh wow,
yeah.
It's gone quickly.
Oh, it has. That's good. A sign of having fun.
Yeah.
Nice. Is this what you expected when you joined?
Honestly, no. I thought I would be a lot more nervous because it's a bit, I don't know, it's a bit strange for me. But I don't know, I feel very nice and comfortable here.
Oh, that's good, yeah. I got the armchair for free, so...
Oh, excellent.
Free comfort. Fabulous. Oh. Nice. Well, what was your Thea.Brazier.art is your Instagram page?
That is it, yeah.
Go check that page out. Very good art.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome. Awesome. Do you think you'll ever sway away from bums? Is it the bum life?
No, I mean, for sure, I'll always appreciate a good bum, but yeah, I'll probably turn to something a little bit different, have a bit of variety. You know, there's always something else on the horizon, isn't there?
True. I do like the bums though. Nothing against bums.
No, nothing against bums.
Awesome. This has been fun.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you for joining me.
Yeah, thank you for having me here.
Oh, you're most welcome. Nice. Cool. We're at 1 hour. Bye.
Bye.